the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. Packed show today. Really packed. In fact, we've got a lot to talk about on today's show, so don't go anywhere. Stay right here. We're going to get to all of that on this morning's program. Before we do that, though, CyberHubPodcast.com, find all the latest. Please make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. Go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. All the interviews, everything we've done over the years now, 4.5, almost a little under 4.5 years, is all right there on YouTube. You can really go through a different playlist from different events we've been to all my CISO Talk episodes and Goodbye Privacy. So check all that out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CyberHub Podcast. Now, let's grab my morning double espresso. Beautiful. It's just what I need this morning to get. It's Wednesday. So coffee cup cheers. Let's start with a Google Chrome ZeroDay vulnerability that's being actively exploited in the wild. The patches have already been rolled out by Google, but CVE 2022-2856 has been described as an insufficient validation of untrusted input in intents. Excuse me. Security researchers Ashley Shen and Christian Russell of Google Threat Analysis Group have been credited with reporting the flaw on July 19th. As is typical in the case, they've refrained from sharing additional specifics about the shortcomings until a majority of users have updated their Chrome browsers. The latest update also addressed 10 other security flaws, most of which relate to use after free bugs in various components, such as FedCM, Swift shader angle, and Blink, among many others. Several other CVEs that were patched. Excuse me, my voice here. CVE 2022-0609er, CVE 2022-1096, 1364, and 22904 have all been part of that patch. Make sure you get your Chrome and Chromium-based browsers all updated, because this specific vulnerabilities all impact your Microsoft Edge, Brave, Opera, Vivaldi, and many others as well. So something to definitely keep in mind here, folks. So there we go. Quarterly security patches have been released for Splunk Enterprise. If you're using Splunk as a SIM, then you may want to take a look at this and address it quickly. The most important of the bugs based on its severity rating is a high severity TLS certificate validation issue in the ingest actions user interface. Track the CVE 2022-37437. The security bug only impacts connections between Splunk Enterprise and ingest action destinations that are made through Splunk Web. Only environments with TLS certificate validation configured are impacted, according to Splunk. Another vulnerability they addressed is CVE 2022-37439er, a medium severity issue that could lead to a crash when indexing a maliciously formed zip file using the file monitoring input. So you want to definitely make sure you upgrade your Splunk Enterprise and make sure your security operations center continue to run smoothly. Another exploit out for the critical Realtek flaw that's affecting so many networking devices. The exploit code has been released for the critical vulnerability affecting networking devices with the Realtek RTL819X system on chip, which are estimated to be in the millions. The flaws identified as CVE 2022-27255, where a remote attacker could exploit it to compromise vulnerable devices from various original equipment manufacturers, ranging from routers to access points to signal repeaters. Now, this becomes even more critical with work from home. Yesterday we talked about how reconnaissance was being done by China and Russia, and you can obviously tell that these types of supply chain vulnerabilities that are within the hardware, asset management now has to start shifting to what are people using for work from home? How are we securing it? And, how much will the company take on this one as well? The researchers from Faraday Security in Argentina discovered the vulnerability in the Realtek SDK for the open source ECOS operating system and disclosed the technical details last week at DEF CON. Their presentation covered the entire effort leading to finding the security issue, from picking apart a target to analyzing the firmware and exploiting the vulnerability, automating the detection in other firmware images. CVE 2022-27255 is a stack-based buffer overflow with a severity score of 9.8 out of 10 that enables remote attackers to execute code without authentication by using specially crafted SIP packets with malicious SDP data. So you can watch the whole video. The link is in the show notes. Several lines of defense here from SANS. They can crash the device, execute arbitrary code, establish backdoors for persistence, reroute network traffic, and intercept network traffic with this one. So devices using firmware built around the Realtek ECOS SDK before March of 2022 are vulnerable. You're vulnerable even if you don't expose any admin interface functionality. Attackers may use a single UDP packet to an arbitrary port to exploit the vulnerability, and the vulnerability will likely affect routers the most, but some IoT devices built around the Realtek SDK may also be affected there as well. Significant there, folks. Iran group is targeting Israeli shipping and other key sectors. So tensions are rising between Iran and Israel. Is it a surprise? Not really. Every time the Europeans and the Biden administration get close to trying to re-engage the JCPOA, which, better known as the Iran nuclear deal, there's an increase in cyber activities to derail the Iranian nuclear program and also derail impacts and parts of it. Obviously, Iran is the world leading global terror supporter at this point. What happened to Salman Rushdie last week should infuriate every person who appreciates freedom. The fact that the individual who will be unnamed on my show, because I don't give those people recognition, was in touch with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, their Al-Quds force, and received instructions from them, just lets you know how crazy this is. Now, Israel, for its part, really does rely on shipping. In fact, shipping containers in Israel is one of the main ways they import products into the country. And so any attack on the Israeli shipping industry would be critical infrastructure as far as it's considered to Israel. This is now a ongoing campaign that Mandiant has reported that started in late of 2020 as an ongoing in the mid of 2022 at the height of the COVID pandemic. Although the group targeting is originally focused on Israel, some of the targets are global, meaning they're looking to do ripple effects around government, shipping, energy, aviation, and healthcare sector. The focus on Israeli shipping is for intelligence collections. The collected data may be leveraged to support various activities, from hack and leak to enabling kinetic warfare attacks like those that have plagued the shipping industry in recent years. One possible phishing lure used by the attackers is likely to have been a Excel file disguised as a job offer and designed to install SugarDump, one of the unique tools being used by the threat group. SugarDump is a credential harvesting tool able to extract passwords from Chromium-based browsers. The second tool is Sugar Rush, and a backdoor used to establish connection with an embedded C2 and to execute CMD commands. Other tools used include Unicorn and Metasploit and North Star C2, all there. You can imagine that things are just going to continually get even more crazy between the Israelis and Iranians over the next few weeks. Reason I brought up this story is because, one, they're targeting private individuals and companies within Israel. Number two, they're going after critical, and again, using job offers as phishing lures, right? So one of the key things we all look for is career advancement. And it's something that's going to be very hard for us to try to mitigate. What do you tell an employee? Don't take every job offer you get seriously. What right do you have to do that? So, all of that is something to really keep in mind here. And finally, China. Researchers have linked a multi-year mass credential theft campaign to China. No surprise there. The Red Alpha Group has been attributed to a multi-year mass credential theft campaign aimed at global humanitarian think tanks and government organizations. In this activity, Red Alpha very likely sought to gain access to email accounts and other online communications of targeted individuals and organizations, according to recorded Future, a lesser-known threat actor, Red Alpha was first documented by Citizen Lab in January of 18 and has a history of conducting cyber espionage and surveillance operations directed against the Tibetan community, some in India and elsewhere, to facilitate intelligence collections through the deployment of the NJ-RAT backdoor. Since then, malicious activities have undertaken by the group have involved weaponizing as many as 350 domains that spoof in legitimate entities like the International Federation for Human Rights, Amnesty International, the Mercator Institute for China Study, Radio Free Asia, and the American Institute in Taiwan, among many others. Folks, those who don't know, China's in trouble. Economically, they're not performing anywhere where they need to be. Their reproduction rate is under one, even though they've lifted the one-child policy in China, very controversial. And there's a great documentary on Amazon Prime you guys should definitely check out on the China one-child policy and its cruelty. There's another piece here where the Chinese economy is it's in bad shape. And if we look back at history, anytime economies have been where they are now, high inflation, bad GDP, stagnating population growth, typically leads to some really bad events historically, folks. So keep that in mind, folks. All right, that's it for our show today. We'll come back tomorrow to wrap this whole week up beautifully in a bow, see what's been going on in the world of cybersecurity this week. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.